I quickly fell in love with blogging. Like, I was hooked. It was so much fun for me to get to just sit down and share some stories, some pictures. I was learning in the margin of life when baby was napping, kids were sleeping, my husband was at work. I was like, what is Twitter? Instagram was new then, Facebook. I was studying other people's writing and just really found my true love in blogging. I still love blogging, by the way. And I also got super consistent right away, even though I had like almost no readers. Maybe my mom was reading my blog post, but I started blogging, I'd say 3, but probably 5 times a week consistently. And I've said before that consistency is kind of my superpower. I'm not great at a lot of things, but I am consistent. When it comes to exercise, people say, what's one thing you do? I'm like, I've been consistent. I don't do anything extreme. I'm just consistent. And I think there is something to that. And that's going to be a theme that comes up in this message today, I believe. But I spent a couple years just cranking out blog posts. And at first they were pretty light and again, mostly just photos and stories. But over time, I got a little more courage to share my heart. God had taught me so much. And many of you know, if you've read my books or followed me for long, those early years of parenting were really hard for me. I was stretched. And it took me digging in and really seeking God, finding great mentors and resources. And I really grew a lot as a woman, as a wife, and a mom during those years. And so I started to share a little bit more, some of the wisdom I had learned. And we were homeschooling then, and I saw the fruit of my labors. And so I was just sharing a lot of those things. And it was then that I guess I got connected with a few people online. Last week, you heard from Brooke McLaughlin, who used to have the Mob Society, Mother of Boys. It was a community of writers, and they invited me to be on their writing team. So I was just growing a lot in those years. And then I hit a pivotal moment. And I like to share this because it just was so special and such a big piece of my story. And that was that during those times, again, I was writing a lot, but there was a little bit of tension because it was taking some time. I mean, I still tried to be a mom and a wife first, but I would stay up late and I'd be on the computer and my husband would get home from work and I'd like close the laptop and it just felt a little bit uncomfortable. Like this was my thing, but maybe he wasn't totally on board. And then we had this night, a date night. I'll never forget, we were out at sushi and across the table, Dave challenged me and he said, so this blogging thing, is this a hobby or a job? And fair enough, that was a good question. And I think that oftentimes in the world we live in today, us women have so many opportunities, right? To chase these exciting things, these side hustles, which sometimes can be such a blessing for our families, a great outlet, but they can also be a real distraction. And I think that there is, a fine line there, and we need to be prayerful and wise about these things that we pursue. So it was a fair question, but it kind of made me mad. I got a little defensive, but I'll never forget what I said across the table back. I could probably quote it. What I said was, I really can't explain this, but whether I have 10 people reading my writing or 10,000, I just feel like I'm doing what God created me to do, and I want to keep doing it. And that's when Dave said, all right, then, I'm on board. How can I support you? And that was such a beautiful moment. It makes me tear up because it's like I needed his support. I needed to know we were in this together, and I hadn't felt that way up until then. And I know God creates us, man and woman to be one flesh, and just having him come on board with me, it was like something really beautiful happened in that moment. And I believe it did because I know that was a Thursday night because Friday night, Dave went to work, to the hospital to do a night shift. The boys were all watching a movie, and I opened my laptop to write a blog post. Now, a little bit of background on that too, because many of you are familiar with this blog post. That previous week, Josiah had a birthday and turned 15, and Jonah had turned 13. Their birthdays are 6 days apart. And leading up to that time, I remember that everything I saw online, especially about the teenage years, was just bad news. Everyone was like, oh, enjoy your kids when they're little because you're going to lose it all when they're teenagers. They're going to rebel. They're going to quit talking to you, and just a lot of really bad news. But that hadn't been our experience at all. Now, it wasn't easy. There were challenges, trust me.